Welcome to the first 2024 edition of the Tennessee Thunder podcast, brought to you by the Tennessee Freedom Coalition and hosted by none other than Jason Mills and yours truly, Stephanie Davis. Now, it is our mission to create a citizen platform through peaceful activism that provides local and state information and analysis about legislation, laws, regulation, and government plans that affect you, the taxpayers and citizens of not only Union County, our home base, but also across the great state of Tennessee. Now, the Tennessee Freedom Coalition is a constitutional movement in support of limited government, limited regulation, and limited taxation, whether on the federal, state, or local level. We promote infrastructure supported by focus to build small business, encourage entrepreneurship, and promote competition to eliminate cronyism and corruption, in addition to creating a healthy and a sustainable tax base. Good evening and Happy New Year to all of you out there. I'm going to get Jason added on here. Just take us a minute to get all the technicals. Add him to the stage.
Well, hello and Happy New Year to everyone out there. We greatly appreciate you joining us tonight here on the
I'm trying to get
podcast.
I'm trying to add him to the stage. Hold on just a second, Jason.
There we are. I'm here.
I don't see you. We don't have a split screen.
Well, I do. I don't know what's happening on your end, but I can see us both.
Yeah, I do not see you. So let me try.
Well, I'm here, and it says you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you.
That is odd. I don't know what's wrong. Okay.
Thanks, the operator.
Must be.
Oh, now it's just me. There's now just you. Now it's just me.
Well, I'm looking at the live screen, and it shows me, not you. So this is strange.
This live screen shows just me at the moment. I'm trying to pull it up on the book face here so I can look at what everybody else will see.
Yeah. Everybody just give us a few minutes to get this straightened out. We're still learning this platform.
Now it's you. Now it's me. Yeah, this is behind on Facebook. So Facebook is behind.
Yeah, we had a great opening there. That was a perfect song for the Pinocchio Awards, don't you think?
It absolutely was, and we'll be getting into the Pinocchio Awards here in just a minute. But I don't know what the camera situation is, and looking at Facebook here, and we can't see it. It goes that way. But anyways, it just shows me on Facebook. So I don't know what you did to yourself.
I don't know either. Well, just keep talking. If it's showing you, we're good. I don't need to be seen.
People probably don't want to see me either. But anyways, remember to like, share, comment. We appreciate it very, very much. We thank you for joining us tonight. Hope everybody had a wonderful and great, awesome, fun-filled, family-filled, friend-filled holiday season with a Merry Christmas to everybody. And I hope you had a wonderful start to the new year. Hope everybody got to watch the ball drop and did the whole countdown and all that comes along with that. I had Stephanie back and I'm gone. Now I'm back.
This is crazy.
But we hope everybody had a great holiday season. I know the kids go back to school tomorrow. I'm sure they're hating that. Some of them are bored at home and ready to go back. So be careful going back to school tomorrow. Remember, the kids do go back to school as you're going through them school zones and all that kind of good thing. Remember to slow down and watch out for them buses and kids waiting on the buses and all those kinds of things. So remember all that. And while Stephanie's still trying to figure out the camera situation, we'll go through the dates in January. So if you got your ink pen ready and your paper ready, we'll just tell you what dates we have coming up and what we got going on for the month of January. These are subject to change, but hopefully not. Miss England, good to see you. Hope you had a wonderful time with Christmas and New Year's, all that kind of good stuff. Good to see you on here again. Remember to like, share, comment. We appreciate it. For January, of course, today is the podcast. January the 6th is a training we got coming up. There's going to be some details. I was going to have Stephanie explain what the training was, but
Oh, the training.
She's there. You just can't see her.
Yeah, you can hear my voice. That's enough. So basically, there's a school choice event coming up this coming Saturday, January the 6th. I do have a link for anyone who wants to come to. Basically, there's a place in West Knoxville. It's sponsored by FP. They're putting the event on because this is one of the things that they are working on to address in our legislature this coming year, and basically to decide whether or not we want to have school choice in our state. And so they're lobbying very heavy for that. So basically, you're invited to one of their little events. They have one in West Knoxville. It's one of the hotels. I think it's Hampton, but I'll post that over in the comments, and all you'll have to do is follow that link and register. I believe lunch is also provided. So this is a free training seminar. If you're interested in school choice, whether you're a parent, a teacher, or a young person, you're invited as well. And so they've got several people signed up for that event. They're expecting a pretty good little crowd. And, come and learn. Don't be afraid of knowledge. Knowledge is always helpful. And there's a lot of things that are happening with the school choice issue in our state legislature, both that's exciting, but also that's that we're watching. One of the things is we do not want our homeschooling to be affected. We have a lot of people that are concerned that school choice would hurt homeschooling. And so I have been basically advised that that's not the case, that they're working toward making sure that homeschool will stay the way it is. It's not going to be affected. So we're not going to support anything that does affect homeschooling. We don't want those strings attached either as a Freedom Coalition. So I would advise you guys, whether you're homeschoolers or not, to come to that. And for you teachers that are wondering if this is something that you would be interested in, I know there's a lot of good incentives for our public school teachers, career-wise, that is very palatable. And so you guys may want to check into this. I hear there's a lot of good things happening for our teachers as well. Go ahead, Jason. I'm still trying to work on this. And I'm sorry, everybody, but when I opened my streaming software, it looked totally different tonight. So I don't know if they've changed something on it or not.
All right. So that's January the 6th. That'd be training. If pay attention to the page, and Stephanie will post a link to that and all that kind of good thing. On January the 9th, which is next Tuesday, a week from today, we are going to Nashville for the session of the state of Tennessee first day in session. And so we'll be going out there and having a good time. And you can sign up for that. I think Stephanie can post a link for that too, maybe, if you want to go there. Travel is taken care of. You just meet everybody at one location, and then we'll all ride down together. And I believe food is being provided as well, and all that kind of good thing. So we'll have a good time there. If you don't have anything else to do, and interested in going to Nashville and visiting the Capitol and all that kind of good thing, that will be next Tuesday on January the 9th. On January the 16th will be our next podcast after this one. On January the 22nd is county commission meeting. Hope to see everybody there. Very important that folks show up. Let's make it a New Year's resolution for everybody that possibly can show up to those county commission meetings and even the other meetings. There's Stephanie back. Now I'm going, hey, there we are. We're split up. Well, we were split for a second. Anyways, let's make it a New Year's resolution to start attending these school board meetings and budget and finance meetings and most importantly, the county commission meeting. January 23rd will be our podcast following the county commission meeting. And on January the 30th will be the Union County Constitutional Republicans Mix and Mingle. We might be doing some other things with them that day. We just got to work out some details as far as some things that have to be done with that Constitutional Republican Party. So stay tuned for more information on those. We've got a couple more podcasts before some of that happens. But again, Stephanie will post those links to the training and the Nashville trip. So make sure you go sign up for those. And yeah, that's what we got coming up in January. We've got a February agenda kind of planned out, but it might be tweaked a little bit. So that's what we got for you coming up in the month of January.
I'm still working here. Just you want to discuss some of those laws, those brand new laws that people may not be aware of that will affect a lot of people in our county as well as our state.
Well, certainly, but I don't have them, so.
Before we get into the crust of our Pinocchio Awards.
Well, I didn't think about pulling them up, so I don't have them.
Well, I actually have them. Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
I know
folks.
we talked about it, but I didn't think about pulling it up myself. So,
let's see. All righty.
I've got our list pulled up of what topics we've got for tonight, but that wasn't one of them, so I don't have it.
Yeah, give me just a second. Okay. If I put this over here on our screen, our chat screen, can you just pull that up there? I just posted it. It'll take you to the link. Oh, is that? Well, there's a dialogue down below it. It kind of gives a little bit of a description about the laws.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to click the link on my phone. It's not working.
Oh, no. Well, that's okay. We're just trying to get our screen fixed, and I can't do two things at once. So let me go back over there.
Well, even on a laptop, it won't let me click on the link either.
Oh, no. Technology.
Gotta practice over the weekend.
All right. So
this software just throws us for a loop sometimes.
All right. I'm going to start, and I know people can't see me. That's fine, but you can respond. Jason, feel free to put your 2 cents in there. So
I'm too poor for that. It could only be maybe 1 cent. I'll give you 1 cent. When's the mixer? The next mixer is going to be January the 30th.
That's correct. The next mixer. So be thinking of now. These mixers, folks, are designed for you to bring your friends, your family members, neighbors, church members. It's a way that you can get the word out about our movement, our conservative movement that a lot of people still don't know about, because apparently Facebook doesn't share us to everyone. And not everyone is on Facebook. So we also are on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter, but still everyone doesn't know about our meetings and whatnot. So we really rely on the folks that listen to our podcast to get others involved. And you may want to get others involved by just inviting them when you go to church. Even if they come from, other places, they want to come down, that's fine, because our meetings are open to the public, open to the taxpayers and to the citizens who are concerned about our counties, our local government, about over taxation, over regulation, and all those things that we fought for this past year. A lot of people are struggling in these other counties with the same issues. So that's what that mixer is for. And it's fun because, you get to talk and meet new people and network, but it's really just a mix and mingle. And we will probably have a speaker. I don't know who that will be yet. I'm working on someone who may attend and speak at that event. We had Mr. Charles Cook last year. Sorry, I have an animal here. We had Mr. Charles Cook, podcaster and political activist, conservative political activist, with us last month, and everyone seemed to really enjoy him. And you may have seen his clips. So we try to have a special speaker every month to teach us something new. Most of us in our community are not political activists. We've never had to do this before, but because of our lawmakers, because of crony politicians, because of all the things that has caused our governments to become some of the most corrupt governments in our history, or at least visually corrupt. I think we just know more about them now. We try to get people in that can show us and share with us their wisdom about how we can fight for our country and our counties and our cities. And so that's what these are for. These are very, very valuable bits of information for you, to show you how to follow legislation, to show you how to stay on top of the issues. We have a lot of resources, but a lot of people just don't know how to use them. I didn't really know how to use them either until I started doing some reporting for the local newspaper way back in the day. But it's even gotten better since back in the dinosaur days. No funny remarks there, Jason. It really has. It really has gotten better. You guys have a lot more tools than I had to work with. I only had maybe a website and the so-called other media at that time. Plus I had a few independent people that sent me tips, and then it was up to me to go to the courthouses and stuff and chase the information down. So it takes a lot of work to, do your research and do all this stuff. So that's what these meetings are about, to get us networked so that we can help one another fight these battles. All right. So do you have any other announcements there before we get into some of the new laws?
I do not.
All right. So just feel free there to chime in. All right. So the first bill is, as you know, Tennessee has become a constitutional carry state. So lawmakers have now passed a voucher program as an incentive for gun owners to take some handgun courses. And I guess to kind of satisfy some of the complaints about responsible ownership, gun ownership, our legislature has created some voucher programs to try to help people to, take courses in case they're maybe haven't fired a weapon before, or a new weapon owner. or someone that just wants to brush up on their skills. And so they used to have handgun safety courses that were required to get your license, but that's no longer a requirement. You have any opinion on that, Jason?
Well, I always thought, or still think, that it's a good idea if you're going to carry a firearm that you need to go through some kind of a training. Um, Maybe not an in-depth, you know, like a police officer would go through training, but some kind of training, as opposed to just handing somebody a permit and saying, "Here, go do what you want." So that's just my opinion.
Right. Well, I can tell you this from firsthand knowledge: when you're not used to carrying, or well, not carrying, but I can carry a weapon all day. But when you're not used to handling a gun like a police officer, when it's not part of your uniform that you have on every day, or if you're just using your gun, you've got your gun in your car for protection or in your nightstand or wherever you keep one. And then suddenly you have to use a weapon, or at least act like you're using it, rack the weapon, whatever you're doing. If you're not used to it, those skills can kind of, you get a little rusty. And I had an experience with that Saturday with a gun that I had never held before. Basically, I just went into a gun shop and looked at one, and the guy was trying to show me how to rack the weapon, and I was holding it incorrectly. So you're talking to a girl that has been through a gun course, but it's been like over a decade since probably at least 5 years since I've even shot one. So I can tell you that it's probably, especially for us ladies, unless you're, you know, Annie Oakley or something, you probably need to brush up on those skills. When I took my gun course, also, we had some people that were pointing the weapons at each other, which is a big no-no. So even when that the gun is not loaded, remember, guns are forever. I never forgot that. Guns are forever. You never want to point a weapon at someone. So there's just some good little skills there that will help us nervous folks that don't use those things every day, just to kind of, make it more comfortable so that when we do hold one, we're not, sitting there shaking with them. So we know that
Absolutely.
people get nervous with guns. That's probably a good idea for everyone, at least to do that every once in a while, and then go target practice, which I need to do more of. But anyway. All right. So
Right.
the
We shoot here at the house, out in the yard all the time. All my kids know how to use firearms. Um,
Mhm.
it's something that I mean, you could make it a family event and that kind of thing, and go to a firearms facility and do some target shooting. Or if you have property like I do, you can shoot on your own. And I've taught my kids how to shoot from early age. And of course, being a former police officer, going through 2 different academies, I've had weeks of firearms training and that kind of thing. And the biggest thing I try to tell everybody, my kids and that kind of thing, is, as far as firearms go, um, you just remember, eh, and it's what one of my instructors always said too. This is my safety. And
Mhm.
some firearms, some guns have uh, safeties on them, some don't. Glocks don't necessarily. I mean, they have a safety. It's called a drop safe. There's a couple different safeties on a Glock, for instance. That's what I carried as a police officer. But uh, every firearm that a person can carry, this is always your safety. And what that means is you don't put your finger on the trigger unless you aim on pulling it. So
Right.
just a little tidbit of information there. But
Yep.
yeah, I think everybody should go through some type of training. That's just my personal opinion.
And also, if you suffer from arthritis, and Jason, you may know more about this than we do, but I asked the fellow over there at the gun shop about this. If you have problems with your hands, especially because you're stiff with arthritis. Do you have any advice for people that are trying to use a weapon? What kind they should get if they have arthritic hands?
I do not.
Okay, because
Put me
I
on a
was,
spot there.
huh?
I
Do
said
what?
you put me on a spot there.
Oh, sorry about that. I mean, I know there's so many weapons out there, but he said something about a lighter weapon than some of these that I was
Well,
having to pull.
it's all in comfort, right?
Right.
So, like I was saying, as a police officer, I always carried a Glock, and so like Robert, my oldest boy, he likes buying firearms all the time, and Isaiah, he also brings firearms all the time, and they have several different ones that they like to bring over, and we shoot and that kind of thing. But I'm always impartial because I always go back to the Glock. You
Mhm.
know, and I've got uh, long firearms too, or rifle, shotguns, those kinds of things. But I always end up back with the Glock, and that's just what I trained on. That's what I learned on. That's what I'm most comfortable on. That doesn't
Right.
mean that I can't pick up another one and do, decently well shooting with it, but it's all in what your comfort is. I've shot some smaller firearms that, like I said, Robert buys a lot, um, and he buys some smaller ones for his wife and that kind of thing. And I just don't like them. They just feel a little awkward. Lighter and smaller. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it or bad with it. It's just easier for me comfort wise. Even like in the Glock series, there's several generations of Glocks. There's one called the Baby Glock. Um,
Yeah,
I'd
I have.
love to have one. I don't have a Baby Glock. I love to
Hmm.
have one to carry with me,
Hmm.
in my belt, and, wherever I'm going to carry it.
Yep.
And actually, uh, a lot of police officers will carry a Baby Glock as a backup weapon. They normally carry them on their ankle, but
Hmm.
they're just smaller, and I just have a problem with a smaller weapon in my hand. I like it to be the weight, the noticeable, in my hand, and know that I'm ready. Now I can
Right.
shoot, and I can shoot both hands because we learned that going through the academy in case we got, in trouble. But even still, switching hands, it's always for me going back to that Glock. But I don't know, like Barbara says, revolvers are easiest for her. Everybody's got a different opinion. A lot of police officers, in my experience, a lot of police officers will either tell you they like a Glock or they like a SIG, and that's just, and that's how most police departments are normally uniformed is a Glock or SIG most of the time. Some police departments are different, but it's just all much comfort your comfort level is. You know, uh, some grandmas like shooting 357s, so uh,
Yeah.
how much you like. And let's see, Janet says, "Can we have a shooting mixer?" Absolutely. Let's set one up. I'm game.
Yeah. We could do that. We may have to invite some. Maybe we can tie it into a podcast or something, and probably be better to do that toward the summer months or late spring. But that's a great idea. Maybe we'll have somebody that can. We can have our video set up and everything. I don't know if Feces Book would let us show it though. Be my only concern, but anyway, yeah, that's a possibility. Good idea. Um, all right. So there's another bit of legislation that I was going to share with you guys. New law in effect also is the Eddie Conrad Act, which increases penalties for distracted driving. So basically, the law says if an adult driver is caught driving distracted three times or more in 1 year, their license can be revoked. It also affects young drivers, with Senator Mark Pody, Republican Lebanon, saying during a February 23 hearing that drivers 18 years old or younger could have their licenses suspended for 6 months if they are, in quotes, caught texting and driving, end of quote, twice in a given year. Lawmakers passed the bill after Conrad's widow, Joycelyn Conrad, testified in the Senate Transportation and Safety Committee in February 23 and called for the committee to, end quote, stiffen the penalties for distracted driving, end of quote, after losing not only my high school sweetheart, but my best friend. The same Dustin Samples Act, named for a firefighter from Cleveland. Okay, that's something else. Okay, what say you about the distracted driving
Well,
act?
that particular law, I think, it is geared more towards young drivers, and that kind of thing. But you don't need to be distracted driving. You don't need to be texting and driving, that kind of things. I get where the law comes from, but at the same time, people get distracted by so many things. And I'm not making excuses for them at all, but I'm just saying people get distracted by so many things while they're driving: radios, eating, cell phones, GPSs. So that law is, like I said, it's geared to save lives, and I understand the whole idea behind it. And like I said, I think that law is geared more. If you read into it, I think it's geared more towards younger drivers. I think the penalties are stiffer for younger drivers. So that's all I gotta say about that one.
Okay, perfect. All right, moving right along. The James Dustin Samples Act, named for a firefighter from Cleveland whose PTSD from his job led to him to die by suicide, creates a grant program to cover costs to an employer that is providing workers' compensation for firefighters who need to take time off and seek help if needed. As much as, this is in quotes, as much as he became a mental health advocate, he struggled to find what he himself needed. Samples' widow, Jennifer Samples, told the House Local Government Committee in February of 23. And this isn't just Dustin's story. There are firefighters across the state, dads, moms, sons, and brothers, who are struggling in silence right now, too. My hope is sharing my husband's story is that heroes across the state can find support and know they're not alone in this. So what say you about that particular law?
I think that's a great thing that they're doing with that one. These first responders out there, whether they're firefighters or law enforcement, EMS, whatever, they see some of the most horrible things that you can imagine. And they have to go home and deal with it. And it replays in their mind over and over again. My son talks about it all the time. Some of the car accidents that he's been on and different things like that. Some of the fires that he's went in, different things like that. It does take a toll on your mental health. Why I'm not a police officer anymore. I worked some cases that got to me, and I had to take a step back. And so I think that's a great thing. And these first responders and that kind of thing never get enough help. And they just, all across the board, they don't get what they deserve. They don't get enough help with their mental health. They don't get enough help with, how much they get paid. It's just all the way around. We need to do a better job taking care of our first responders.
Absolutely.
And this is one step in the right direction.
We're going to get into the salaries of our first responders on an entirely different podcast, Jason. So you'll definitely want to look into that as we go along, because, it's one thing to create a multi-million-dollar building project. It's another thing to have the police officers and the emergency responders you need that are actually there. Buildings can't really, I mean, buildings are wonderful, but buildings are inanimate objects. We really need to start investing more in our people and less in capital projects, or at least have a better balance of the two. I think that a lot of times our folks get shafted when we need them the most, and that's one of the reasons it's hard to keep people employed in a lot of these positions. You have people that are getting paid as much as someone does, not to shaft anybody at all about working at a fast food, but it takes some training to work these jobs, and it takes a lot of stress to put up with a lot of, like you said, the stuff you see. And so I just think that a lot of times we just don't pay our people enough in these emergency response jobs.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, you get football and baseball players and wrestlers and all this stuff making millions and millions of dollars. And granted, they're away from their families a lot and they go through a lot of training and all this stuff. But our law enforcement, our firefighters, all these folks are out there actually military, out there actually risking their lives, being away from their families and doing all these things. And they're some of the lowest paid folks around. And like I said, you got these professional athletes that make millions and millions of dollars. And I understand, like I said, that's physically demanding and they're away from their family. I get all that, but it just doesn't balance out in my mind.
Right. It just doesn't seem fair. But we will get into
that. Janet says, instead of spending $500 a night to house illegals in motels, we should have spent that money helping first responders and our military. I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. These are our tax dollars are designated to serve we the people. And that is one way that we the people can get a return on our investment instead of tying it up in these very, very expensive capital projects. Buildings don't always solve the problems. So let's get into this next law. All right, we did the handgun. All right, lawmakers also passed a bill that aims to help former inmates find a job after leaving prison by providing documents like a photo ID, birth certificate, and social security card to soon to be released inmates. And then it says in quotes, employers in Tennessee are struggling to fill jobs and find skilled labor, said Senator Todd Gardenhire, Republican, Chattanooga, in April of 23. Many people leaving prison check all the boxes for their employers, but if they don't have an ID or know their social security number, employers cannot process their hiring paperwork. Aside from this law, I thought they had already were doing that to help place some of these prisoners. What do you know about this, Jason? Not to put you on the spot, but
I know that they offer assistance, but I think it's at the time, because this law sounds like it's going to be like a regular thing that happens. I think before now, I think it was something you had to request, and you didn't get a lot of people that either knew about it, and inmates didn't know about it or weren't offered it maybe, or just doesn't want to go to work, so don't worry about it. So that's about all I know about it.
All right. And we got two more, and then there's probably others, but these are the ones that stuck out the most. One of these was called Abriel's Law, which provides training for the state court system to detect child abuse and remove victims from domestic violence situations. So
it also, I don't know if you're going to say that, but it also puts into effect that if there's no evidence or no proof that a claim has been made, let's say Mary over here is really concerned about her daughter being with dad over here, and makes a claim to DCS or law enforcement, whatever. At some point in time in the past, Mary could have gotten in trouble for that.
Mm-hmm.
And this new law makes it to where she can't get in trouble if she's legitimately concerned about the well-being of her child. She can't get in trouble for filing the report. Now, don't get that confused with Mary's just mad at dad because they're not together anymore. That's still filing a false report.
Right.
So don't get it confused. But it opens up the door for parents or guardians or grandparents or whoever that are legitimately concerned about a child. They can file a report. And that report might be found to be a false report, but after whatever investigation is done. But that doesn't mean because it's a false report that reporter gets in trouble. The only way it's going to be actually breaking the law, filing a false report, is if said person is just doing it as a retaliation or just to get back at somebody or something like that.
All right. There's another law that allows breathalyzer interlocks placed on steering wheels of repeat DUI offenders to track the GPS movements of the car in order to see if the lock is being tampered with and the car driven when it's not supposed to be. What say you about this law?
Well, that's a little misleading. Because that sounds like entrapment, the way you read it. I don't know what you're reading it from.
This is Microsoft MS. No, it's not MSNBC. I promise. This one is U.S. News.
Now that sounds like the way it's written sounds like it's an entrapment kind of thing, and that's not what it is. If you have a DUI, and I used to do these, okay? I used to put on ankle monitors. I used to, do the interlock system. Breathalyzer in the car, all these things. Okay. I used to do that when I was a bounty hunter, when I was a bondsman, all that. I used to do that with a company called Tennessee Recovery and Monitoring. So when you get charged with a DUI, part of your plea agreement might be, you have to have one of these breathalyzers to start your car. Or the judge may say, okay, you got to have this. This is your 5th DUI. You're going to have this in your car. So what this new law does, not only does the breathalyzer part come in, but it also attaches a GPS to that same unit, or it might be 2 different units, however they're going to put it in. But so let's say I can't talk today. Let's say Stephanie gets out here and gets plastered and gets a DUI, and the old judge says, okay, you got to get one of these things in there. Well, sometimes, like everything else, gets fooled. Stephanie, I'm using you as that example. I'm not saying you're drunk. But
sure.
Stephanie goes down here to the bar and takes a friend with her as a sober driver, and instead of Stephanie blowing into this breathalyzer to start her car, old friend does, and so now with a GPS on there, now when the judge gets the report, he might say, "Oh, Miss Davis, why on such and such a date, such time, you blew into your breathalyzer and it blew clean, but yet the GPS shows that you were at this bar at 1 a.m. in the morning." So that it opens up a safety aspect of being able to monitor better which is what these folks are getting done when they do that. When they get these units placed in their car, they're being monitored is what they're doing. What this law does not do, it does not give the court system, law enforcement, anybody like that, the A-OK to track your car. And that's why I was saying that was kind of misleading, because the way it was written, the way you read it, kind of says that it gives people the ability to track your vehicle. And that is not it. It's not a law that says just because you have one of these units in your car, we can track everywhere you go. That is not the law. The law is simply more monitoring, because let's face it, folks, DUIs are one of the most deadly things that goes on out here. People drinking and driving and that kind of thing. And that's where a lot of accidents happen, and how a lot of lives are lost. And so it's just in an effort to try to curb some of that even more than is already done. And so, like I said, I just wanted to clarify the way you it's read or written. It sounds like, we can just track you everywhere you go, whenever, however we want, and that's not the case.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just concerned about being tracked, and that's probably why it was written that way. I don't know, because I didn't write it, but
Are you
I'm
sure?
trying to find the last. Huh?
I said, are you sure you
If I
didn't
worked,
write that?
if I worked for USA Today, I wouldn't be here. I don't want to work for USA Today. Okay, so let's see. I was trying to find the last one here that we put up this morning.
I think we're
I can-
missing the farmer's
yeah,
market
the
law, aren't we?
farmer's market. Yes, that's what I was looking for the verbiage on. And it's not a USA Today article. I had it on the Union County Speaks Out, but I do not see it.
Well,
So
let's just talk about what we know about it, okay? We'll do
sure,
that.
go ahead. Yeah.
Well, that law is I know there's been some confusion today talked about that law. That law does not say anybody that sells at the farmer's market has to have one of these $300 permits. That's not what it says. It doesn't say if you sell food at a farmer's market, you have to pay for one of these $300 permits. What that law is just like a food permit. If I'm going to cook you something at a restaurant, I've got to have this permit. It's the same thing at the farmer's market. If they're going to prepare food on site and serve or sell, they have to have a permit. And apparently that permit's going to cost you $300. So I hope some of these farmers market make that kind of money, because that seems kind of hefty.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion. I think the verbiage was a little confusing. That's why I wanted to pull it up, because it sounded like it could be interpreted several different ways. I did speak to some people affected by this law today. After we got out and drove around a little today, I actually talked with some people that work at the farmer's market, and they said that it did not apply to produce people that vended. It was only people who cooked at the facility, was their understanding of it. So that's what you heard as well.
Yeah, and like these food trucks and that kind of thing that set up at the farmer's market, they've already got permits, with their food permit with the food truck. So this permit would, and I could be wrong, but in my mind, because they already have a food permit, I wouldn't think that they would have to have this permit on top of it, because that just seems kind of counterintuitive.
Well, the only thing that the other objection I heard was that the $300 was a little bit steep for someone who wants to prepare some food on the site. They felt that that was a little bit too much. That
Right.
would actually prevent a lot of people that would have come to be a vendor and maybe to make some kind of I don't know, fried potato cakes or something. Who knows? On the site using the fresh food, the fresh produce. So, you know, a lot of people just look at things like this. Some of the political activists I've been talking to, especially conservatives, are very concerned with the way our state laws treat certain professions, certain trades, in basically feeing them to death, especially these
Well,
ridiculous.
absolutely. I mean, $300 would be a good deterrent for me going to try to sell something at the farmer's market.
Someone mentioned to me today, well, if you're good, you know, you're probably going to turn over $500, $600 there. So you're going to double that in one day. But, you know, that's a big risk for a lot of people, especially if you're just there to cook some of mama's fried green tomatoes there on the skillet, you know. So that might deter a lot of those types of folks.
Right. I mean, even if you're not trying to sell it, you're just trying to sample it. That definitely would knock that out for me, unless I was at a huge farmer's market and was selling a lot of stuff.
All
But
right,
you
now,
can't even
Jason.
do that. You cannot prepare food, and even if it's samples, you cannot prepare food and give it out without one of these permits.
Yeah. There are some groups that I've been working with, some political activist groups that basically are lobbying the state about a lot of these ridiculous fees that they've got up. And it's, you know, you're nickeling and diming people completely out of business. There was recently a person, a young person that was African American young lady that was the only one that could braid this little girl's hair in her hometown, little small rural town. And when she went to try to get, I guess, permission to do it, they told her she had to have a cosmetology license, which would have costed a fortune. And so basically, what happened there was they went to their state rep, and the state rep said, "This is ridiculous," and they started talking to the legislature and basically decided that you know, after going to these committee meetings, that that was unnecessary. So this started affecting laws across the country. And that's, you know, if you know how the legislature works, there is so much that we, the people, have. You just have no idea the power that you have in your hands, folks, regarding these legislatures. Okay. Most people do not understand their power to go and speak in front of a congressman or senator. You know, a lot of people years ago would have said, "Oh gosh, that would make me so nervous." Well, it doesn't make you nervous, it makes them nervous. It makes them more nervous because you're their boss, you know. And that's kind of how you have to look at it. You're not going up to a king and you're not a servant or a subject. You're their boss. That's what a republic is. So that's some of the things you're going to be trained about relative to this legislative session. All right, now, Jason, I'm going to do a little trick here, and just bear with me, folks. I'm trying to do a dual screen. I think I may have figured it out, but I got to. So you may go away just for a minute, Jason. I promise you I'll bring
While
you
you
back.
figure it out, we've got a. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep talking.
Okay, keep looking.
We got a comment on Facebook. Folks probably can't see it, but it's a YouTube comment. It says, "More regulations given to you by the Party of Small Government Republicans." I think Mr. Brantley says it's only $300. And Miss Amos says, "I don't think there's a big enough turnout at our farmers market that anyone sell enough to cover that fee plus a decent amount." Maybe she's wrong, but I don't know that. Again, it's going to depend on. And I've been to the farmers market a couple times, not a bunch, but I don't recall seeing folks actually preparing anything and trying to sell it there on site at the farmers market. So maybe it won't affect so many. I don't know. I could be wrong too. So, and Mr. Madison says this comes in very good on YouTube, and it is easy to comment on. Well, that's good. I'm glad we can get out there in other ways other than the book face.
Feces book. All right.
Well,
so
we had to go screen for a second. What happened to it?
Let me see. Let me try. Can you see me now or just see
there
me?
You are, but I'm not there.
All
Which
right.
is fine with me. You can stay up. Now I'm back.
So you said you saw a split screen, but I never could
It was there for a second.
I think what it is,
it's operator error.
It probably is, but when I set it up, I think what it was, I brought you on before I set up the screen, and we had it in solo mode. I think, and once you get it started, you can't go back. I don't think this software is fancy enough to let us go back and change it. So we'll just have to live with it, I guess, and that's fine. We'll go back and forth. So I don't mind being in the background. That's fine.
You stay. You can go up there. I'd be in the background. That's fine too.
I won't show up in any more videos this week, hopefully.
I see what you're trying to do now.
We might get your floating head back up there this week.
We might.
The great
I get. Wait a minute. I got a question. I shouldn't even bring this up, but since somebody wants to dress up as another gender, does that mean she's cross-dressing?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I just thought about that. Anyways, moving on before I get all right on a tangent.
Do we have anything we want to discuss before we get into our Pinocchio Awards?
I don't think so.
All right. You want to start us off or you want me to?
Go right ahead.
All right. And we'll just
Why don't you explain what the Pinocchio Awards are?
All right. Good idea. So we came up with this this award probably over the last couple of weeks. We were talking, Jason and I were discussing ways that we could do our first of the year inaugural show. And as you know, people with different, podcasts and whatnot, a lot of times they will summarize the year in the, that just happened, or they'll talk about something that's exciting that they're going to be doing in the new year, whatever. But we didn't want to bore you too much with all that. So we decided to create the Pinocchio Awards because if you're new to the podcast, it kind of gives you an idea of some of the things we fought through the year that we faced as a coalition. But it also summarizes what happened during the year. But these were things that basically we could agree to that our leadership or our elected officials, politicians, whatever you want to call them, kind of fibbed to us about. And so we come up with 5. There could be more, but we decided just to narrow it down to 5 because I think these were some of the biggest ones. And these are.
We do have a couple honorable mentions, just a little disclaimer.
Yeah, a little honorable mention. And, the point of this, folks, is not to pick on anybody. So before we have a bunch of new videos debuted next week that we're picking on people and that we don't love our county, which is so crazy, and that all these crazinesses these people come up with. This is something that we just want people, we were, people forget so quickly a lot of times what has happened because there's so much competition out there to cloud your mind, fog your memory, so that we don't become like Brandon, uh, we thought we would create these Pinocchio Awards just so that new people could understand what we're doing, and also that to remind us as members of our coalition and of our movement the mistakes that were made on both sides, what we believed that we shouldn't have believed, what was I guess the rhetoric that was used that fooled a lot of people, the downright dishonesty in some cases. So we're going to be nice, and that's one of my New Year's resolutions: be a little nicer this year, because I
That's one
have
of the funniest things I've ever heard you say.
I have a tendency to be a little more too direct sometimes with people, and so it rubs folks the wrong way, and then we have a bunch of videos made about us. So which are the best publicity in the world we could get. But anyway, I'm trying to be nice, so we're gonna call these fibs.
These Pinocchio Awards, okay? This is just a fun way for us just to kind of recap some of the things that we have dealt with this past year and that kind of thing. It's not that we're picking on anybody or anything like that. It's just us just having a little fun and refreshing everybody's memory. Because we were going to do a whole recap, like a year in review. And we talked about that for a while. And everybody gets tired of, okay, the top 10 most looked up websites, the top 10 headlines, and all that kind of thing. So we just didn't want to really do it that way. And so we decided to do it a little fun and just all the Pinocchio Awards. And so that's what we're doing.
That's right. And I'm sorry. I went
You're supposed to be on camera. Just because you're not don't mean you get to walk away.
Sorry about that. You caught me off guard. All right. I had to get my tea just like you have to get your Dr. Pepper. Okay. So
I'm almost out. I should have brought 2 out here.
All right. Let me
All
get
right. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So,
all right. This is the top 5 Pinocchio Awards for 2023. And I'll do the even, you do the odds, and we'll start with the honorable mention being the even, okay?
Okay.
The honorable mention, and I've got another one to add to this, but so I'm going to do 2 first. Honorable mention is that there are only 8 or 10 of us. And we've even changed the name of one of the pages to 8 or 10 or whatever it's called. But we get so much flack that there's, there was only 5 or 6 of us. Is how it started out way back when with the protest at the county commission meeting over the constables. And that's where this started from. The local media did a whole thing about, at the time, there was only 5 or 6 of us. And if you go back and you look on that article or that Facebook post, I actually went off in the comments. And last time I looked, it was still there. So it probably still is. But I was very unhappy because I didn't care that, it was mentioned that it was 5 or 6 of us, whatever. What really irked my nerves is at that protest, we had a bunch of kids out there doing, what our founding fathers gave us the right to do, and out there protesting for what they believed in. And we're talking about little kids, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old on up to teenagers were out there supporting this cause, and it was a worthy cause. And our local media badmouthed them for it, and that really ticked me off. And so throughout the time in our movement here, we did go from 5 to 6 in the local media, and then we went up to 7 or 8 And last that we've been mentioned, it was 8 or 10. And so that's where the 8 or 10 comes from. And so that's our honorable mention, that there are only 8 or 10 of us. And all y'all out there that watch these podcasts know there's more than 8 or 10 of us. Little funny lie that the local media likes to talk about. And the other one that I'm going to put on here as an honorable mention as well, for these Pinocchio Awards for 2023 are all these fake Facebook profiles that get made just to attack us. Like, I don't have that much time in the day to go make Facebook profiles all day long just to trash talk us and to try to have a descent on what we try to do. And there was another one that came out today. I sent to Stephanie earlier, the fake brand new Facebook page just created just to attack us. And I think that's hilarious. And so there's my second honorable mention on the Pinocchio Awards.
Well, I think what's really funny is that when we have these events, they have people, whoever, the shills, whoever, whatever you want to call them, they actually have people to drive by where we're at. That's one of the reasons we decided to have a little more security the last time we had our event. But they actually have people driving by our events to see how many people are there. Now, tell me that's not concerned about a movement when they start following your movement around to see how many people show up.
I say next time we have one, we just have it in the middle of a car lot somewhere. That way they can't tell how many cars are there.
I got you 8 or 10.
We'll show them.
Well, as we said before, when you're over the target, that's what happens. All right. So I'm going to start off, I guess, with number 5. All right. The number 5 Pinocchio Award goes to this statement: that a wheel tax referendum would have cost the county $40,000 to have an election for the referendum. What say you, Jason?
Mr. Madison says the local Shillerama. Okay. Number 5, $40,000. What we learned after that lie was, or that Pinocchio Award was given to them, because we learned that that was untrue, and that we could have attached that to some other elections that are coming up, and it wouldn't have costed anything because the election would have already been taking place. And instead of, doing the right thing and giving the citizens a voice, it was going to cost us $40,000.
So they actually told a bunch of taxpayers in their Shillerama that it was going to cost the county so much money. So a lot of people that would have supported the wheel tax referendum decided to decline because of this fib that they told everybody. And of course, they told a lot of other fibs that I don't see on here, but that's okay. There is a county to our north that is having an election for their wheel tax on a referendum in the presidential primary in March. And I did check our website for our county election office and found that we have the same election, which is countywide. That was their argument, that it had to be a countywide election. And had someone had the courage enough, I started to say something else, but the courage to actually ask for this to be tabled until March, and trust in their own taxpayers and trust in their own citizens, there would not have been any cost to the taxpayers, and we could have had a referendum. But no one had the courage, although they call themselves Republicans. So,
all right, number 4 on the Pinocchio Awards. was what we heard a whole lot of, and why the wheel tax got kind of steamrolled through was renters don't pay property tax. How many times we heard that at the county commission meeting? And
Oh,
the wheel tax is the fairest tax because renters don't pay property tax. Well, as we all know, that the landlords or the property owners of whatever property that's being rented pays the property tax. And if their property tax goes up, as everybody knows, they're going to pass that cost on down to the renters.
yep.
And their rent payment. And so therefore, the renters do pay property tax. And so it was just a way to distract people, to feel better, to make them feel all warm and fuzzy about not only getting a property tax increase, but also feel better about getting a wheel tax increase. And so that's number 4. Renters don't pay property tax.
Yeah. So,
What say you? Anything?
well, I would say that everybody got a whipping on that one. I mean, there were people that fell for it. And as long as you don't make that mistake again and believe it when they start their next rhetoric, because they're going to try this again. They're going to try to do a wheel tax again. And they're going to start with a lot of the same rhetoric. Renters, the most fair wheel tax. And I hope this time everybody's ready, because they're going to start pretty soon talking about tax increases for 2024. All right.
Like Miss Amos says here, we don't pay the bill directly to those who repair the roads, but our money is used to pay those bills. It's the same thing. Renters do pay property tax. It may not be an outright come out and say, okay, I'm paying this property tax. And I actually know some renters that actually go down to the courthouse and actually pay the property tax as part of their rent. That way, the landlord just says, hey, we'll just take it off your rent. Go pay this amount down to the tax office. And same thing with repairs that need to be done to the property. They'll say, okay, get a plumber to come down and just get the receipt and we'll take it off the rent. It's the same concept.
I've got a firsthand experience with it. I was considering renting a building here a while back for commercial use, and I had a pre-quote on the rent. I had planned to, move in sometime or early part of this year, and so it was quoted, and I got a call from the landlord about right after it passed. And the person said, are you still wanting to rent this building? And I said, well, yeah, is it the same price? He said, no. He said, they just passed the property tax, so I have to pass that along to you. So there again, they're not stupid. They know they're not going to cover it. So they just pass that right along. That's just how business works. So apparently some of these folks on commission either don't understand that or they just don't want to look at it. They're too concerned about rhetoric. All right.
Absolutely. So once again, number 4 was renters don't pay property tax.
All right. Number 3, the county would lose the money if it didn't build a new school. Woo, boy, what a big one that one was. Miss Angela Connor Murphy, our county commissioner, actually brought this up in the county commission. We have it all documented on tape. All this stuff, by the way, is documented. We don't do Pinocchio awards without documentation, without proof. But like I said, we're having fun with this because it's water under the bridge, but hopefully we learned from it. But basically, Miss Connor Murphy asked the school director in the public meeting what would happen to the $4 million that would get lost. And we saw that in the newspaper. We saw that everywhere, that this money would get lost. And what did he say, Jason?
Well, he said, we're not going to lose it. If we don't use it on building a new school, we'll just use it for something else. We'll use it for roof repairs or whatever. We're not going to lose it, was the bottom line. They were going to use it somewhere. If it wasn't used for building a school, it was going to be used somewhere.
Exactly. So, they had everyone thinking that this $4 million was just going to get returned back to the, whoever granted the money. And that was completely false, as proven by that meeting. And we'll be happy. We got clips of all this, so we'll be happy to share that with anyone that doesn't believe us. All right, you want to do number 2? Kind of goes back to
number 2. We kind of touched on number 2, but number 2 is will taxes are the fairest tax. Is everyone feeling the fairness now? That's it. And while we're on this one, the new will tax went into effect yesterday. January 1 was the start date of this new will tax. And so I bet there's a bunch of shocked folks going into the county offices here today, and I'm sure they were closed yesterday, but going in there today to get their renewed tags and thinking that they're going to pay, $35, $37, whatever it was, and finding out that, or $30, whatever it was, and finding out that you got to pay $84 or whatever it is now to renew your tag, and going in just expecting to pay that little amount, but it's only $20.
Yeah. And what if you have multiple vehicles? I counted. Go ahead.
That's the thing. That's why this whole, in the local media and all the county commissioners that have said it and all the other folks that have said it, it's only $20. It's so misleading and makes people feel some type of way. And I just seen a Facebook post the other day where it got blew up crazy because they got their new card saying they've got to renew their tag and it's this much money, and they were like, holy cow. Well, first of all, that's what happens when you don't pay attention to what your local government's doing, because they passed this will tax and all this kind of stuff. And for folks that have more than one vehicle, which most family or most households do, this line that it's only $20 is like a smack in the face to all of them. Because, me, for example, I don't even know how many cars out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 personal vehicles. I've got 3 business vehicles out there. Could you imagine how much it would cost me to go renew every one of them tags right now? But most people that have several vehicles like that, guess what we're going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I know what several people that have several vehicles have told me that they're going to do. They're just going to park some of those vehicles. They're not going to renew the tag. And because it's ridiculous. And you say, well, it's only $20. Well, if it's only $20, Miss So-and-so, why don't you just go ahead and give me that extra just $20, and I'll be more than happy to go renew all my tags. But what happens is, and I said this when they were discussing passing this thing, what happens is they're estimating all this tax money coming in by raising these taxes, okay? And so people like me that aren't going to renew all these tags now, they're going to lose money on the estimation. So let's say they were thinking they were going to make an extra $1 million on this wheel tax increase. And don't hold me to that number. Some just fell. I don't know how it fell, but it fell. Anyways, let's just say it's an extra $1 million, okay? That's what their estimation. This is just a guesstimate, okay? I'm not using this as a real number. But $1 million is what they're estimating this wheel tax increase is going to give them a year. Well, then half of those folks that would normally renew all their vehicles have decided, okay, well, we're not going to renew those because of this increase. Well, let's say we're only getting $750,000 now. Well, guess what happens? Well, you're not going to be able to make your payment of your $1 million a year because you're only getting $750,000 a year. And so it's just something that I don't think they took into account or cared about. And it's just like, and you can come at me and say, well, you don't know that. Well, look what they did with the old wheel tax or the current wheel tax, whatever you want to call it. That was to pay for Paulette. They underestimated what the payment was going to be. And so that's why the wheel tax had to be extended for some more years, because they didn't estimate enough money. They didn't make enough money to make the full payments. They paid what they could, and we had a balance left. And so now, instead of the wheel tax sunsetting like it was supposed to, it had to be extended longer. And so that's what we run into. And it's all because we didn't think ahead, we didn't plan ahead, and we didn't do everything the right way. And so, and again, wheel taxes are fair. Who's it fair to? Not only that, but what about these folks that say, okay, well, I'm not going to renew my tag here in Union County. I just go up to Anderson County and renew my tag there. Well, you say you can't do that because it's illegal. And folks do it every day. And Miss Ayler has stayed right in the middle of county commission meeting. You know, we can send out notices saying, hey, you went and renewed a tag in another county, but you still owe us the wheel tax money. You got to pay it here. And like I said, she said it right there in the middle of a county commission meeting. There's no enforcement of that. There's nobody, there's no sheriff, no deputy that's going to go start knocking on doors saying, oh, you didn't pay this wheel tax. Now you got to pay it, or you slap you on the hand. There's no enforcement. So
there's no enforcement.
What's going to stop people from going elsewhere to renew their tax? Not only that, but most of the time, you go to Knox County and you buy a vehicle. That's where most people go buy vehicles, right?
Yep.
And so you go out there. Well, what's these car dealerships do? They don't normally, they're supposed to, but they don't normally register those vehicles in the appropriate county, okay? They normally do it in Knox County because that's where they are and that's what they assume. And they don't want to take the extra time to actually do what they were supposed to do and register it in the county that it's supposed to be registered.
Right.
I know this because it happened to me. And the last several vehicles I've bought have been bought in Knox County. I've told them, hey, I live in Union County, you know, blah, blah, blah. They need to be registered in Union County. They don't. I get my license plate and everything in the mailbox and pull it out, and I'll be darned, it has Knox County on it and all this kind of stuff. And so normally I would go and get it changed to Union County, but you get in those situations, there's nobody going to have it changed. They're just not going to do it.
No.
It's going to cost them more money. They ain't going to say anything about it, and they won't say anything about it. And you go to Pam Ayler's office and you go to renew your tag next time, they'll say, hey, you didn't pay this last time. You got to pay that too. And then there's going to be another shock to you. So it's just a tangled web that's only going to get worse.
Yep. Well, and people will do what they have to do out of desperation. And like you said, there's no really no sheriff is going in their right mind is going to enforce it, because that doesn't look good on them either, politically speaking. So yeah, it's a mess. All right, are you ready
Right.
for the?
And
Oh, go ahead.
Miss Beeler says, hers was registered in Knox County. Guess where she's going back to? Knox
Mhm.
County. Like I said, people aren't stupid. They're not going to, just because, and they're not trying to hurt Union County. Folks are not trying to hurt Union County by doing this, by going to other counties. Yes, it does ultimately hurt Union County's budget, but folks just can't afford it. And when these taxes are shoved down our throats the way they are, people know what they can afford. People aren't going to pay an extra $20 to renew their tag when they can save that money by going somewhere else. And Miss Amos says, we bought a car in Knox County and it had Knox County tag on it. Got a letter from Union County telling us we had to pay wheel tax or they will charge us double next year. Absolutely. Like I said, that's how they try to play catch up. I had a vehicle that we didn't drive for several years and that kind of thing. The engine was blue or whatever was wrong with it. I don't even remember. This was a few years ago. And so finally I got it fixed and got the new tag, and they want to charge me for every one of those years. And I'm like, wait, it wasn't used. I'm not paying that. And so there's ways to fix it, but absolutely they will. No fault of Pam Ayler's office at all. They will try to get their money. And so you get in a situation like Miss Amos says there, they're telling people, well, we're going to charge you double next year. Well, guess what next year I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the same county that I went to this year and get my tag renewed.
Right.
It's just how it is.
Well, are you ready for the number one Pinocchio Award?
Number one. Drum roll, please.
Yeah, well, eventually we'll get some of those sound effects, with the drum rolls and all that good stuff. For now, we can't even figure out how to put a person on the screen. So, all right, the number one Pinocchio Award is that Union County Republicans are anti-taxation. Our taxes are growing faster than Pinocchio's nose. And if we, the 8 or 10 of us, hadn't stopped them, that nose for taxation would have grown into a tree. They'd soon have been putting the chicken farm fertilizer on it. Transition is basically that we're just making more big government for our little county. And I thought this was a red county, Jason. What say you?
Well, I thought so too, but again, I say this all the time, the leader of our Republican Party here in Union County is the one that demanded all these taxes. And that just blows my mind. And I know people are tired of hearing me say that, but it's true. That's where they came from. That's the one. He's also the one that is pushing an increase of some sort. We don't know details specifically yet. But something's got to be done for this new jail that they started talking about the last county commission meeting back in November. And I guarantee we're going to have more information on it this coming county commission meeting. They don't have the money, folks, to pay for it. So guess who they're going to expect to pay for it? Us taxpayers. And like I said, yes. This whole Republican Party here in Union County is led by the one pushing it. And that's not what conservatives are supposed to be about, I didn't think.
Well, there is something that we, the people, can do about it. The first thing we can do about it, which is one of the reasons we have these mixers every month, is we can find fiscally conservative candidates to run for these offices. People that are actual conservatives or who act like they're conservatives in their policies. We're not going against these people. This is not about personality, folks. This is about policies. So when the newspaper and the Shields and the Shillingtons or whatever they're called, when they start in on us about we're attacking the people, we're attacking the poor politicians and all this craziness, we're not attacking anyone. We're attacking the policies. That's what makes them different from us. Okay. They're more into personalities. We're more into policy. So finding fiscally conservatives to run for these offices is the first step. The second step, what would you say the second step is, Jason?
Well, we've got to get better at questioning Republican leaders, whether they're state, local, whatever, as to which direction their vision of the party is going, regards to our taxes and the growth of our government and our local leaders in line with the party. So what I mean by that is, so like I said, we've got a Republican leader in Union County that obviously doesn't align with what the majority of the Republican Party thinks as far as taxation goes. Most conservative folks, Republicans, want lower taxes, less regulation, smaller government. On the flip side, it seems on face value, I'll give them credit, okay, just a little. On face value, that our current leader doesn't think that way. He doesn't. That doesn't seem like he cares about the folks of Union County and how much they have to pay and those kinds of things. But going back to the Union County Republicans are anti-taxation. The number one Pinocchio Award winner. Going back to that for just a second. You remember back when they started all this talk about raising taxes, property taxes, the wheel tax wasn't brought up yet. But the property taxes were. And it was all on how much they were going to raise and how they were going to come up with the money. Do you remember, folks out there, just go back just a little bit. Remember that they were trying to raise property taxes, and we got hit left and right by a bunch of people saying we were making things up and it was lies, and then come to find out we were telling the truth, but they didn't want to face the truth because it would make them look bad. But do you remember we were talking about 70, 80, 90, 100, even higher percentages of a tax increase of what they were looking at? And it took us, even though we were being attacked ourselves, it took us fighting those taxations being raised so high. And it took us, remember we had the news out there and our protest about property taxes being raised?
Yeah.
That's what all this was about. It was trying to stop the taxes from being raised so much. And that's when they said, they thought they stepped in it. And that's when the wheel tax started coming in because they needed to bring that property tax down. They knew that we citizens weren't going to allow them to raise the taxes so much, property taxes so much. And they knew we were causing a stink, and it was gaining, those locomotion wheels were getting a little bit faster, and they wanted to slow the movement down. And so what did they do? They stopped talking about raising the property tax so much, but then they tossed in that lie, one of them other Pinocchio Award winners, that the wheel tax was the fairest tax. And so they got us. They may not have got us by as much as they wanted to get us, but they got us because they sold this lie that the wheel tax was fair. And so they took, the focus off the property tax, and they gave you a new shiny object over here called the wheel tax to look at, so you weren't focused so much on the property tax. And then what they do, they raise both. And so they got what they want, not all what they wanted, but they got what they wanted. And we did try to stop that. We tried to stop the wheel tax by petition, and of course, everybody knows that we did such a bad job on doing this on this petition, even though we didn't, and we still haven't got our information we've requested. But even though we did our due diligence, we did what we could in the short amount of time that we had, with the short amount of people that we had to do it with. We did what we could. We had more than enough signatures, and it got thrown out. So yeah.
So
Stephanie must have ran off again.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
And to add insult to injury, your voices were denied. Your voices to have an election were denied. Not one commissioner, with the exception of 3, even voted no on the taxes. But even out of all those commissioners, no one had the courage, or maybe the understanding, to give them a benefit of a doubt on some of them, that they could have created a resolution to have created what we worked so hard, what we had to go do ourselves to create a resolution so that we could have a referendum to vote. And that's when I realized that we were not really acting Republican at all, and that we were basically fighting a lot of the things that people have fled other states to come here. We now have those people, and they're not people from out of the county. They're people that have lived here all their lives that basically want to spend and tax, spend and tax, spend and tax. And now, instead of having a surplus, we're going into the hole. And so a lot of the people that have moved here are seeing this, and they're like, I just fled a blue state for the very same reason, and now it's happening here too. And I've talked to people, not just here in Union County, I've talked to people all across the state that says their little conservative areas are not being served by the people calling themselves Republican, because those Republicans, in quotes, are not acting Republican.
Absolutely. Did you find out who all, Ms. Beeler said, did you find out who all they denied on the signatures?
That was
we never got
us
that information back. We got an invoice.
We got an invoice, and we've got an invoice on a lot of the records. I've never seen so many expensive invoices in my life. I used to, report here in this county, and I used to go obtain some, records here and there. I have never seen such a progressive way of charging for simple public records. And they always say, well, it's because we have to put labor into it, and we're charging for the labor. But the work is already done. Why do you have to charge so much? The state law says you have to charge a reasonable, or you can charge what they call reasonable fees on an hourly amount, or you can charge by the page. But it seems like every time, and we've got records of all this, we've kept all of our records, that every time we have asked for a public record requiring some, little bit of examination, that they're trying to charge us. We've gotten bills, what, $1,000, Jason? Around $1,000?
We got a few $1,000 bills. We've got, yeah.
And we're not dumb here. We've consulted, and basically it's interesting to those looking at some of these records we've shown that these folks would have the audacity to charge citizens this much. And so there'll be some interesting things happening down the road with that, but we won't get into that now. You want to elaborate a little bit about the school choice, what our folks can do. I know there's a lot of people concerned about the term school choice. Now, we are trying our best, and we're going to have some guests on our podcast. We're going to have some training. We're going to have some people coming to us from all over the state that are dealing with school choice. Basically, school choice is your option. If you've ever heard of charter schools, it's kind of like a charter school, but it basically takes the money that you pay into the system, which is around $7,500 per student, and it gives you a choice on how you want to educate your child. And so there's many people that are arguing on not only on the public school side of it against it, but also on the side that says we want school choice, we just don't want strings attached. That's the biggest concern, especially with our homeschoolers. Did you know, Jason, we have a decreasing school population. I checked the numbers last week. According to the Tennessee Department of Education, we have decreasing numbers in our public schools right here in Union County. And this is also seen in some other counties across the state. But our students, it's not that we're losing population. I had some guy, try to send me a census and act like it's the same thing. But, he was trying to show me the census had increased in our numbers. But that doesn't have anything to do with the school population. The school population can decrease even though the area population can increase, because a lot of the people moving here may not even have children, or they may be private schooling their children, homeschooling their children, and that kind of thing. So 2 different data pieces, okay? And this is basically in our legislation this year. Our conservative groups are going to Nashville to lobby for school choice. And this is probably one of the most aggressive pieces of legislation that they're trying to propose that I've seen come across the horizon in a long time. So this is a very exciting time. We may not get exactly what we want, but I can tell you one thing, and that is our homeschoolers, we will not support anything collectively that hurts our homeschoolers. And they have a lot of concerns. There's also other people with concerns about different strings because, it's still government, but the choice comes to the state instead of the Fed. So basically, they would give you an option to use. There's a lot of people with concerns about curriculum, being forced if it goes to the state, that you still have to teach the kids certain curriculums that they don't approve of and that kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions. So we'll just have to stay tuned. But, this is a good time for you to get involved with this. And even if you don't have school-age children, this is our future. We have a lot of schools, especially in these blue states, that are teaching our children woke Marxism, communism, socialism, globalism, all the isms, okay, with these woke agendas and all this craziness that's been going on for a while, but it's been really aggressive in the last few years. And a lot of our parents are saying we've had enough. I'm not sure
right,
to the extent that this has in our Union County schools. We do have a school board member we've asked to kind of check some things out for us, especially with our books and whatnot. And we do have a really excellent, a couple of good school board members, but there are ways that these curriculums are taught. They kind of go around the mulberry bush. Sometimes I was looking through my daughter's English papers the other day, just found an old book she had scribbled in with her lessons. And they have English sentences that have actually historical things. Not that she was being indoctrinated, but they had things that pertain to the Civil War and different things that they could be wording however they want, and they teach it through other subjects. So the kids look at this, they're like, oh, I didn't know that, or and then that's how they get these messages across to these children. And then there's even worse, which that's nothing, but one of the things that they were discussing with these school boards is the parents were finding these sexually charged books with all these pornographic narratives and whatnot, and these were in our elementary schools. And when they tried to read it to the school boards, the school board couldn't even stomach it. And they said, stop. And they're like, and you have this in the elementary school library, but you don't want to hear about it. So this is the kind of stuff that goes on all across the country. And we just want people to have a choice. If a school is not exactly what they want morally for their child, or if they're teaching things they don't want, or if the quality of education, as you know, Jason, I forgot to mention this, our school scores came out this past week, and we had all B's and C's. I don't think we had an A. Did we have one A school? Maybe was it Sharps Chapel?
Don't ask me. I done forgotten. I don't have it in front of me.
I think Sharps Chapel was the best, but we had a school that was not so good, and that was Horace Maynard Middle School, and it had a D. And this was a scorecard, and of course they had counties, around us that got all these different scores, and a lot of the scores were C's and D's. Some were F's, not in our county, but there was one D in our county. One of the things that is bothering and troubling is that when someone goes onto a website, onto a social media site, and defends a C as acceptable, it makes you wonder, how do these folks think that these kids can compete in the real world with A and B students when they're making C's? It's not realistic. So a lot of people just want choice to pick schools that they feel can be a good school. Like I think Blount County and Anderson County had the highest ranked grades. So basically a Union County student, if they chose, could go to a public school in Oak Ridge or in Maryville. Okay. Or they could go to a private school because they'd have the money to do it. So that's what this is about. That's kind of
Right.
loosely how it works.
But
yet you have people that says they don't deserve a choice, and it's like, really, why don't they deserve a choice? I'd like to hear somebody explain that side of it.
Here's my 2 cents on the school choice debate in this upcoming law that they're trying to pass, that kind of thing. Number one, it's about freedom, and that's what we're all about, is freedom. Now, that's going to give the parents the power, once again, to be able to decide what's best for my family, what's best for my kids, and that kind of thing. Number one, that's the biggest thing. It's about freedom. Now, I haven't seen the final version of the law and that kind of thing. So, again, like you said, I'm not going to be behind something with strings attached or something that's going to hurt homeschools or anything like that. But until we've seen the final version of that law, we've got to go with the information that we know. So, with the school choice, it gives the opportunity for families that otherwise normally would not be able to afford, say, private school. Let's say my son is struggling in public school, doesn't get enough attention with the teacher one-on-one like he should because the classroom has 30 students in it, and this private school has 10 students in the classroom. He could get more help. He could, whatever the case may be, but I can't afford to send him to this private school, even though I'd love to. Well, with this school choice law would come in, and it would say, okay, Mr. Parent, you can take this $7,500 that you pay your child with your tax money that you're paying for your child to go to public school. And instead of sending him to that public school, you can take that $7,500 and you can pay your tuition at this private school. Freedom. It gives that freedom. And that way, people talk about, well, that's going to hurt the public schools. Well, if you're doing a great job, like you should be doing, taking care of our students, you wouldn't have to worry about all these kids leaving because you're doing an awesome job. And I'm not talking about teachers doing a bad job. I'm just saying, in general, as you look at the scores for the Union County public school system and see there's improvement that needs to be done. And I'm not saying all private schools are great. I've been in both. I've went to public schools up until my 8th grade year. My Spanish teacher, Miss Amanda or Miss Crooks, knew that the next step was high school, and public school, high school for me wasn't a good idea. So my 8th grade Spanish teacher took it upon herself with her her teacher salary, paid my tuition as a student of hers. She believed in me that much that she paid for me to go to a private Catholic school. And that's where I went to high school until I moved here my senior year of high school, and I graduated from Halls. But everybody that needs that opportunity doesn't get that opportunity. But with this school choice law, what I've heard so much about it thus far would give that opportunity to every parent across the state. And that's something that's needed.
Absolutely.
Another way to look at it, say you're a teacher, and let's face it, folks, the biggest employer in Union County is the education, Board of Education, school system here in Union County. That's the number one employer. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the teacher side of it, okay? And this is good news for you teachers that are watching this podcast. You're going to find out some information right here, okay? Let's say, we're going to get hate for this. I'm going to say it anyway. We're going to get some hate from this from the school administration, okay? Again, do a better job. You won't have to worry about losing folks, whether it's students or teachers. But here we go. Teachers, you might be part of the teachers union, and the teachers union is against this school choice. I'll go ahead and tell you that up front. The teachers union hates this idea of school choice in the state of Tennessee. They are fighting it tooth and nail because they do not want it. Teachers, hear me out. Teachers, I don't know what the exact salary average is in Union County, but I'm going to say, let's say it's $40,000 a year. Might be high, might be low, I don't know. Say you get a teacher. teachers in these public schools are told basically what they can teach and what they can't. Go a step further. Let's say a teacher believes in the history being taught of the United States and how we became. They're not allowed to teach that anymore. Let's even go a little further and say this teacher is a proud Christian and wants to add a little bit of a religion class to their education system or what they teach. But they can't do that either because they are told what they can teach in the public schools and what they can't. Same thing, prayer got taken out of school and all that stuff. People say, well, it's Constitution. Nowhere in the Constitution did it say you can't pray in school. Just putting that out there. That was just some people that decided they didn't like it anymore and didn't believe in what the rest of the nation wanted and fought it. And what did we do as people that thought prayer should be? We do what we do most of the time. And we said, oh, well, let's just let them have what they want. And that's a problem a lot of times, but I digress. Anyway, so teachers, have we got this teacher and wants to do all these great things? Guess what? This law passes. She can start, she, whatever teacher can say, okay, public schools, thanks for allowing me to teach, but I'm going to go on my own. I'm going to start my own pod school. I'm going to say, okay, let's have 10 students. I get 10 students to sign up for my pod school or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to meet every day at the public library, or we're going to meet, at their home or this church or wherever they decide they want to teach their pod school. Guess what? Miss Teacher, listen to me, teachers. I know money talks and walks. We're going to talk about money, okay? Because that's what goes on, right? So guess what, teacher? You're making $40,000 teaching 30 students in a public school classroom. Well, now you made the smart decision. You wanted to teach more about the things that you actually believe in. You get behind it. I can teach you something I'm excited about as opposed to just the normal what I'm being told to teach. So now I'm excited to be a teacher again. I've got 10 students counting on me now to give them the knowledge of what they should have to further their education, to further their careers in the future. Well, guess what? You just took that $7,500 per student that's now coming to you in your pod school. You got 10. Well, your salary just went from $40,000 a year to $75,000 a year, and you're teaching less students, and you're doing a better job because you have that opportunity for more one-on-one interaction. You have that opportunity to be more excited about what you're teaching, and you have the ability. And yes, I'm sure there's going to be certain things that have to be taught. I understand that. I understand that the state's probably going to say you've got to teach math and you got to teach this. I understand that. But it also gives you the opportunity. It also gives you the freedom to teach other things like religion, perhaps, or like the history of our country. And let me tell you, folks, those that you that don't have kids in school and haven't had kids in a while, you can talk to my kids right now. None of them can tell you how this country became a country and know specific details about the United States, this country where we live in. Let me tell you, the folks that come over here legally and go through the immigration system are taught more about our country and what we believe in and those kinds of things than our kids in school. It's civics in school does not exist anymore. And that's a shame. And I hope and I pray that some of these teachers will do the right thing and start teaching things that should be taught to our students if this law passes. And again, I'm not saying this law, this school choice is the greatest thing ever. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying what I know about it currently is a good step.
Yeah, and I know that it's supposed to be done in little steps because they're supposed to implement it, I think, to the most deprived economically challenged children first, the first year, and then it's supposed the bar will be raised to uh, kids again with less advantages, and then it's supposed to be broadened out toward everybody. But they're doing it that way because they want to work out all the bugs and the system so that they can make sure they're doing everything correctly, and that everything is working out the way that they think it will, and they can tweak it as they go. So, if you open a restaurant, you don't want to invite the whole city the first day because, obviously you're going to have some issues. So that's what they're doing. They're trying to set it up systematically to where it will basically get better and better with time. And also, we have some comments. I wanted to mention that I really believe as a parent, and both my children went to public school. I went through public school. Public school was a lot different back in the dinosaur days. I know many of you all went probably before or after I did, but public schools have always had their challenges and their issues. But I met some wonderful people, had some wonderful teachers, some godly people that taught me in school. We had a teacher, actually a couple of teachers that my children went through elementary school that I know were Christians. They even had a Bible on their desk. They basically lived their Christianity. You knew they were Christians. And but now it's like, a lot of the people have been told they can't show any Christianity. They can't show any faith in the classroom. And so a lot of parents are bothered by that, especially parents of faith, that there's none of that in the classroom. But yet you have these people that basically come into these small rural conservative counties and they try to start the poo, so to speak, and they try to bring in satanic clubs and that kind of thing, extracurriculars after school, to basically just stick it in your face. And a lot of these are basically communist people just trying to start the poo in these conservative counties. That's really their whole purpose, is to do that. That's why they had a satanic, some kind of satanic statue. I think it was in one of the state houses. You probably heard about that. And the guy in the military, Navy guy or whatever, went in there and destroyed it. He got put in jail. But, a lot of these parents argue back that, well, we shouldn't have any religion in the schools. Well, the whole beauty about this is in a school choice environment, in an ideal one, none of that would matter anymore, because now you've got schools, you've got pod schools, private schools, that you can choose the school your kid goes to. So if you don't like a school that has a satanic club after school, you go to this school. Okay. And from my understanding, there would be no barriers. You could still go to a public school. You wouldn't have to even go to the county that you're designated to go in, from my understanding. I know they're trying to make it broad to where you can go to another public school. You can go to a pod school. You can go to a private school, religious school, whatever school your kid goes to, that you can now pay for, because you've got the money to pay for your child to have an education. So it's just, how do you spend that educational dollar and get the most impact? And I've spoke to educators that are starting new schools. I'm hoping to have some of them on our podcast in the near future. Some very exciting things. Their prices are around $7,500, $7,600 a year. I don't know what that includes. I don't know if that's books or if that's everything. So that's some of the things we got to work out. We had some comments.
One of the other issues that has been brought to my attention is my kid has to go to public school because they want to play football, or they want to play baseball, or they want to be in the band, or whatever those things might be. But it's my understanding, doing a little bit of research on that and talking to some folks, it's my understanding that even if like you're homeschooled currently, those extracurricular activities, band, football, whatever, still in the public school, still have to allow those students to participate. So if you start hearing some of that kind of thing about why it's a bad idea, that's not true.
Someone says that Union County kids can't have Christmas party, Valentine party in classroom anymore. They have got, let's see, they've got to have a party in a bag. I don't know exactly what that means. Miss
We
Beeler,
talked about that on a podcast, like one of the first podcasts we did. That our kids aren't allowed to have parties in school anymore. They have to, when I went to school, we got to hand out candy or bring in cupcakes and, hand out Valentine's cards and, have a little party and that kind of thing. Can't do that anymore. Now you get a little brown bag on your desk and that's all you're allowed to have. And you're not actually allowed to have that during school. You got to wait until after school.
Sounds like a bunch of party poopers took over. Jeff Brantley says 35-0. Go Vols.
Oh, how about Nico? Don't ask me to say his last name because I can't.
Janet Amos says the Satanic Temple was put in the Iowa Capitol. I knew it was one of those conservative states. Can you imagine? The state of Iowa had a Satanic temple, or I'm sorry, it was a display placed in the State House by the Iowa Satanic Temple. So, like I said, these people go looking for trouble. They conquer and divide and conquer. That's what they're after when they show up in your hometown and, they challenge your school constitutionally by saying, separation of church and state. So that's where we get into problems. So the school choice would basically null and void a lot of those problems by giving our kids and our parents choices now so they don't have to go through a lot of that stuff. Something else I was going to mention about school choice, and what was it? Go ahead, Jason. I'm trying to think where I was. Something I was going to bring in.
I can't just going off of the satanic statue. Could you imagine the meltdown the left would have if in that same courthouse or capitol a group of folks wanted to put in a statue of Jesus? It would have a complete meltdown. I mean, it'd be all over the media all day, every day. It'd just be the most awful thing. And I get it, folks. We get fair's fair. If they get to do it, we get whatever. Our founding fathers founded this country on God and the belief in God and that kind of thing. And I think my personal opinion, you don't have to agree with it. And my personal opinion is a lot of things start going downhill when we took our focus off of God and we took God out of school. We took God out of this. We took God out of that. And our focus became on worldly things. And this is the preacher coming at me. Our focus became more on worldly things than godly things. And then we would just, we need to get back focused on the right thing. I'll just say that.
Something I wanted to mention about certification. Some people, I guess, have some bad information that schools cannot be certified if they're not public schools. A a lot of you may not know this, but the people that certify your public schools are basically public schools, a public system watching over itself. It's kind of like having the fox in the hen house. Okay. So the certification that has to be worked out too, but I would guess that once that's worked out, that will have to be a completely separate entity that certifies these independent schools. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but from my understanding, public schools, the whole public system has its own certification. And what is fascinating, Jason, is that why are we certifying failing schools? Have you ever wondered that? I asked that question of someone the other day. We were having a nice little debate about it, and I said, why is our system certifying a failing school system? Now, I'm not talking about Union County. I'm talking about just in general. But, why are we certifying these schools that are F schools? That makes no sense, but yet they get a certification the very next year and a slap on the wrist. You got anything else, Jason?
I don't understand it. I mean, you go into a health department goes in and to give a place a food permit. If they don't get a passing grade, they don't get to open. So, like you said, why are we certifying failing schools? Our kids are more important, or most important in most people's lives.
Exactly. Well, without further ado, do you have any other announcements before we close down for the evening?
I'm gonna go through these dates one more time, just so everybody's on the right page. Again, Stephanie is going to post the links for the training and the Nashville trip on the page, so be looking for that. Sign up for that if you can go. That'd be great. But on January the 6th, we're having a training. We're not having it. Another group is having it that's invited our group to go. And January 9th is a Nashville trip 1 week from today. Transportation and food is provided. Or you can drive yourself, I guess, if you want to. On January the 16th. What?
They're taking buses or vans, from my understanding, and they're quite comfortable, and they're feeding everybody. So it's an all-day trip. They meet at 7 a.m. in Knoxville, and they will return at 7 p.m. that same day.
And January the 16th is our next podcast. January the 22nd is the next county commission meeting. Make sure you attend that. January 23rd, we'll have a podcast following that county commission meeting. And January the 30th is the Union County Constitutional Republicans next Mix and Mingle. Where and time will be announced soon. And Barbara says the Quilting Club's meetings is the I don't know what dates you're talking about there, Barbara. I was trying to help you out, but third Monday at noon, I can tell you that one.
I think it's the first and third Monday. Yeah, first and third Mondays.
First and third. Okay, I got that. First and third Monday of the month.
Yeah,
that's the Quilting Club, and that is down at the church across from McDonald's where we had the last Mix and Mingle.
And if any of you folks are interested in canning, drying food, we're going to have some upcoming events with that for those of you who are preppers, or for those of you who just want to learn how to do that kind of stuff. Because, it was a dying art, and now it's kind of coming back with all the prepping that's going on in our country and the uncertainties of our times, and just people that want to, have more control of their food sources. This is a great time to learn the trade and learn how to do that kind of stuff. I myself remember my grandmother doing that stuff as a child, canning and all that stuff. Don't remember much about drying. I don't think she did too much freeze drying, but I would like to take that course as well. They offer it usually through the local co-op, or they offer it through the what's the name of that little thing up here they have? Jason, help me out. It's the 4-H. So they usually have several courses throughout the spring, summer, and fall. And I'd love to get a group of you all together to do that with us once we get into our season. And I don't know of any local garden clubs. Do you, Jason?
I do not.
Because that's something.
I don't garden. So.
Well, I'd like to get into gardening, especially some things I'd like to grow. My daughter and I are kind of interested in that this coming year. So if any of you all know of any garden clubs, I'd love to have you on or have somebody on to talk more about gardening. We'd like to start getting more people, more community-based people on our show. Also, people who have food banks. I invite you guys to come on, talk about your food banks, to help folks out here in our community. We're all about that, folks. We just want people to be happy and free and have choices like they've never had before. And we're very excited. We know there's a lot of challenges in 24 that it's a little scary for a lot of people, and we're not sure what's going to happen with everything. But we know one thing is that the Lord is in charge. Regardless of our fears and our anxieties, the Lord always has the final say. And so,
absolutely.
we're, as my mother said, you know, you got to help yourself. That's why God give you hands and feet and legs and a mouth. So, and hopefully some brain power to go with it. So, we just pray for discernment on everything that every opportunity we're given. And this thing with school choice, I think, is a very good thing. At least we can learn what is out there. Educate ourselves before, you know, jumping headstrong into anything. Just try to work out all the devil in the details and make sure we're all going down the right path when it comes to those kind of things.
Absolutely.
But I'd like to thank the 8 or 10 that joined us tonight. I noticed there was quite a few more than 8 or 10. And usually with our lives, folks, we have a few people on. Sometimes we have 20, sometimes we have 15, sometimes we have 75, depending on who the guests are. But the beautiful thing about these lives is they are watched later by people. And I noticed that our Christmas podcast, Jason, had almost 1,000 views. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, that's good.
We're no Dan Bongino.
We've had, hundreds.
We're no bad. I think Dan Bongino said he had
several million. With a county that's 20,000 people, I'll take it.
There you go. Well, I want to thank everybody, excuse me, for joining us tonight. Everybody, join us for our next podcast. And be sure that if you're not seeing our post, one thing I want to remind everybody is sometimes you don't see our post. I've had people reach out to me now about this Christmas thing saying, well, we didn't get any invitation. We didn't even know about it. Okay. And that's because Facebook doesn't always help us get the word out like they used to. Back when we started Polygraph years ago, we'd have, 1,000 views in an hour. We don't get that kind of reach anymore. Facebook squashes it. They have algorithms that control all that now. And, some posts do well, but it's usually those stupid memes and things like that really don't mean nothing. But when we put a post up, it just goes to a certain number of people. Sometimes it just goes to 2 people. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So you may have to manually check our page because we have announcements almost every day. We have events going on all the time. You may just have to come over to the page every day, manually check it. That helps our algorithm as well. Also, give our page a review, a good review, hopefully, if you like and enjoy our podcast. We've got 5 good reviews on there right now. And that actually, the more people that review and say nice things, the more attention the page gets. So be sure to do that. Even the negative reviews get good, especially if we answer them. So be sure to put a.
Don't give nobody no ideas.
Yeah, we might wind up on some crazy podcast somewhere else, but that's okay. You know, we love our shillery, as someone said, but you know, we had some shills during the holidays that came on, and we love them just like everybody else. They help get the word out about the Freedom Coalition. So anyway, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And as for me and my family, God bless. And I'll hand it over to you, Jason.
Absolutely. We thank you once again for joining us tonight. Hopefully everybody can join us. Go to Nashville and all that kind of good thing. We'd love to see you there. And with that, happy new year to everybody. Remember to pray for me. I'll pray for you. And we'll talk to you later. God bless and good night.